The humid Atlanta evening settled over the city like a heavy blanket, the sun dipping below the skyline and casting long shadows across the bustling streets. Maya Thompson navigated her way through the lively neighborhood, her footsteps echoing the rhythm of the community she so passionately served. At 28, Maya was a dedicated community organizer, tirelessly working to bridge gaps and foster understanding in a city that often seemed divided by its own complexities. As a single mother, she balanced her commitments with the tender care of her 7-year-old daughter, Ella, whose laughter was the bright spot in Maya's often challenging days. Tonight was no different. Maya had spent the afternoon at a local community center, facilitating a discussion on neighborhood safety and advocating for better resources for marginalized families. Her voice, strong and compassionate, resonated with the attendees, many of whom looked to her for guidance and support. As she left the center, the air was thick with the promise of change, a sentiment Maya held close to her heart. Ella was waiting at the front gate, her pigtails bouncing as she waved enthusiastically. "Mama, did you have fun?" Maya smiled, kneeling down to embrace her daughter. "I did, sweetheart. We made some great progress today." They began their walk home, the path well-trodden, yet always holding new stories within its confines. The streets were alive with the sounds of evening, children playing, neighbors chatting, and the distant hum of traffic blending into the backdrop. Maya cherished these moments, the simple joys that reminded her why she fought so hard for her community. As they approached their modest townhouse, Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at the screen, seeing a message from Lena Harris, her best friend and fellow activist. "Great work today. Let's grab dinner later?" Maya's heart warmed at Lena's constant support. "Sounds perfect," she replied, tucking her phone away. But tonight, the tranquility was about to be shattered. As Maya unlocked the door, she heard the unmistakable siren of a police car approaching. Her steps faltered for a moment, a flicker of unease passing through her. In Atlanta, as in many cities, the presence of police was a double-edged sword, necessary for safety but often a source of tension, especially in communities of color. Maya pushed open the door, Ella scampering inside ahead of her. She took a deep breath, the scent of home comforting her, when suddenly, a bright light flashed through the window. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle," a stern voice commanded. Maya turned to see a uniformed officer approaching, his expression unreadable. "Excuse me, officer. Is there a problem?" The officer, whose name tag read Officer Daniel Brooks, maintained a professional demeanor. "We received a report of suspicious activity in this area. I need to see some identification." Maya felt a pang of frustration. She knew she had done nothing wrong. "I'm a resident here, officer. Everything's fine." Brooks stepped closer, his presence imposing. "I need to verify your identity. Please step into the car." Maya hesitated, glancing at Ella who stood behind her, eyes wide with confusion. "Ella, wait here," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tension rising in her chest. She turned back to Brooks, trying to keep her composure. "Is this about the meeting earlier? We were discussing safety improvements." Brooks sighed, his expression softening slightly. "Ma'am, these things happen. It's just a routine check." Maya felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She knew the statistics all too well. How easily Black women could be unfairly targeted and the systemic biases that plagued law enforcement practices. "I understand, but I haven't done anything wrong. Please, let me know what's going on." Brooks glanced at her, then down at his notes. "We need to search your vehicle." Maya's heart raced. "Without a warrant? You're violating my rights." The officer's patience was thinning. "Ma'am, please comply. It's for your safety and ours." Reluctantly, Maya stepped out of her car, feeling the eyes of passers-by watching the unfolding scene. She had faced adversity before, but this felt different, more personal, more threatening. As Brooks began a cursory search, his actions felt hurried, almost dismissive of her dignity. Ella watched from the doorway, her small hands clenching into fists. "Mama, what's happening?" Maya knelt down, wrapping an arm around her daughter. "It's okay, baby. Everything's all right." But the comfort was fleeting. Without warning, Brooks' demeanor shifted. "Ma'am, you're coming with us." Panic surged through Maya. No, you can't do that. I have rights. Brooke's expression hardened. I'm placing you under arrest for obstruction and resisting an officer. Maya's protests grew louder, attracting a small crowd. Neighbors began to gather, some recording on their phones, others stepping forward in silent support. The situation escalated quickly. Brooke's grip tightened, and Maya was forcefully guided towards the police car. As they drove away, Maya's mind raced. This wasn't just about her tonight. It was a reflection of the systemic issues she had been fighting against for so long. She glanced at Ella through the rearview mirror, seeing fear where there should have been trust. The next few hours were a blur. Maya was taken to the local police station, booked without clear charges, and held in a holding cell. The sterile environment contrasted sharply with the vibrant life outside, a stark reminder of the injustice unfolding within. Her phone was confiscated, cutting her off from the world she had fought so hard to connect with. Back at home, Lena received Maya's messages, immediately sensing something was wrong. She rallied the community, organizing a response to Maya's unexpected detention. Flyers were distributed, social media posts went viral, and the streets soon buzzed with the collective outrage of a community betrayed. As night deepened, Maya sat alone in her cell, the weight of her reality pressing in. Thoughts of Ella, her dreams for the future, and the fight for justice swirled in her mind. She knew she wasn't alone, not truly. The support from her community, the unwavering friendship of Lena, and the resilience that had carried her this far gave her a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. In that moment, Maya vowed to endure, to fight not just for her own freedom, but for every voice silenced by prejudice and every life touched by injustice. The journey ahead would be arduous, but she was determined to see it through, driven by the love for her daughter and the unbreakable spirit of her community. The first chapter closed on this note of defiance and solidarity, setting the stage for the battles to come. Maya's story was just beginning, but the echoes of her struggle would resonate far beyond the walls of her cell, igniting a movement rooted in hope, resilience, and the unwavering quest for justice. The first light of dawn seeped through the curtains of Lena Harris's modest kitchen, casting a soft glow on the array of community flyers strewn across the table. Lena, a fierce and compassionate 30-year-old activist, sat at the center, her mind racing with the events of the previous night. The arrest of Maya Thompson had ignited a spark that Lena was determined to nurture into a blazing movement. She carefully folded each flyer, ensuring the message was clear and impactful: justice for Maya. End racial profiling. Support our community. Lena's journey to activism had not been straightforward. Growing up in the same Atlanta neighborhood as Maya, she had witnessed firsthand the struggles that Black families face daily. Her parents had been vocal advocates for civil rights, instilling in her a deep sense of justice and resilience. When Lena lost her brother to a preventable illness due to inadequate healthcare resources, she vowed to make a difference. This personal loss fueled her commitment to fighting systemic injustices, particularly those affecting her community. As Lena prepared to head out, her phone buzzed with messages of support and concern. She knew time was of the essence. The police station's grim facade loomed in her mind, a symbol of the barriers Maya now faced. With determination etched on her face, Lena grabbed her jacket and headed out, her mind focused on organizing the community's response. Meanwhile, across town, Officer Daniel Brooks sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the events of the previous night replaying in his mind like a relentless loop. At 35, Daniel had dedicated over a decade to the Atlanta Police Department. To his colleagues, he was reliable and steadfast, often going the extra mile to ensure the safety of his community. Yet, beneath his composed exterior lay a man grappling with growing disillusionment. Daniel's father had served in the military, instilling in him a sense of duty and honor. However, years on the force had exposed him to the darker side of policing, instances where lines were blurred and moral compromises became too frequent to ignore. The arrest of Maya weighed heavily on him. He had always believed in justice, but tonight's actions felt like a betrayal of those very principles. As he stared blankly at the ceiling, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted within him. Back at the community center, Lena was already mobilizing volunteers. She coordinated with local businesses to secure venues for peaceful demonstrations and reached out to influential community leaders to lend their voices to the cause. Her phone rang incessantly with calls from worried friends and neighbors, all eager to support Maya and demand accountability. Among those who stepped forward was Detective Rachel Martinez, a dedicated and empathetic officer recently assigned to the Internal Affairs Unit. At 40, Rachel had built a reputation for her thoroughness and unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Her presence in the investigation signaled the department's attempt to appear transparent, but Rachel knew better than to take such gestures at face value. She was determined to ensure that Maya's case was handled with the integrity it deserved. In another part of town, Eli Turner, a passionate 27-year-old journalist with a penchant for investigative reporting, was already piecing together the story. Working for a local newspaper, Eli had made a name for himself by exposing corruption and shining a light on underreported issues. He saw Maya's arrest as a pivotal moment, an opportunity to delve deeper into the patterns of racial profiling within the Atlanta Police Department. His articles had previously sparked conversations and led to tangible changes, and he was eager to add another significant chapter to his portfolio. As Lena rallied the community, Detective Martinez began her preliminary investigation. She reviewed the initial reports and scheduled interviews with those present during Maya's arrest. Rachel's approach was methodical, her questions probing yet respectful, aiming to uncover the truth without fueling further tension. She was acutely aware of the delicate balance required in such a charged environment. Meanwhile, Eli's investigation led him to past incidents where Officer Brooks had been involved in similar controversies. While nothing had escalated to the level of Maya's arrest, there were enough red flags to warrant a deeper look. Eli reached out to his sources, gathering statements and piecing together a narrative that suggested a troubling pattern of behavior. His findings hinted that Maya's case might be more than an isolated incident. It could be symptomatic of broader systemic issues within the department. Back at the police station, the internal dynamics were beginning to shift. Some officers expressed concern over Daniel Brooks' actions, whispering in break rooms and communal areas about the potential fallout. Daniel himself was increasingly conflicted, his respect for Maya's community work clashing with his training and the expectations of his role. He found solace in late-night conversations with Sergeant Laura Jenkins, his superior and a mentor figure who had always encouraged integrity over blind obedience. Sergeant Jenkins had seen enough to understand the complexities of policing in a community like Atlanta's. At 50, she was a veteran with a no-nonsense attitude and a reputation for fairness. She recognized Daniel's internal struggle and offered him a path he hadn't considered before, one that involved transparency and accountability, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths about his own actions. As the day progressed, Lena's efforts bore fruit. The community center buzzed with activity as volunteers set up protest signs and prepared speeches. Local businesses displayed supportive messages in their windows, and social media was ablaze with hashtags advocating for Maya and systemic reform. The solidarity was palpable, a testament to the strength and unity that Lena had always believed in. Detective Martinez's investigation took a significant turn when a witness came forward, providing crucial details that contradicted Officer Brooks' initial report. This new information suggested that Maya had been treated unfairly and that Brooks' actions might have been influenced by implicit biases. Rachel knew that this was a turning point, one that could either make or break the case. Eli published his first article, detailing his findings and shedding light on the recurring issues within the department. The piece quickly gained traction, sparking conversations across the city and drawing national attention to Maya's plight. His work resonated deeply, inspiring others to come forward with their own stories and adding momentum to the growing movement for justice. As the community prepared for the upcoming demonstrations, the tension within the police department continued to escalate. Officer Brooks found himself increasingly isolated, his colleagues divided over the appropriate response to the mounting evidence against him. The once clear lines of loyalty and duty now blurred, leaving him to navigate a path fraught with personal and professional uncertainty. In the quiet moments of reflection, both Maya and Daniel grappled with their roles in the unfolding drama. Maya, confined within the stark walls of her holding cell, drew strength from memories of her parents and the unwavering support of her community. She clung to the hope that her struggle would not be in vain, that it would pave the way for meaningful change. Daniel, on the other hand, stood at a crossroads. The man who had once viewed policing as a straightforward duty now faced the daunting reality of his actions and their repercussions. His conversations with Sergeant Jenkins provided a glimmer of guidance, encouraging him to seek redemption and advocate for the very justice he had once thought to uphold unconditionally. As the sun set on Atlanta, casting long shadows that mirrored the complexities of the city's social fabric, the threads of Maya's and Daniel's lives intertwined in unexpected ways. The community's resilience, Lena's leadership, Rachel's dedication, and Eli's tenacity converged, setting the stage for a battle that would test the very foundations of justice and humanity. The second chapter concluded with a sense of anticipation, the stage set for the characters to delve deeper into their personal struggles and collective fight for justice. The echoes of Maya's arrest reverberated through the lives of those around her, igniting a movement that promised to challenge the status quo and strive for a more equitable future. The sterile white walls of the Atlanta Police Department's Internal Affairs Office felt colder than usual as Detective Rachel Martinez settled into her chair. At 40, Rachel had seen her fair share of misconduct cases, but Maya Thompson's arrest struck a chord deeper than most. There was something about Maya's unwavering spirit and the community's immediate reaction that suggested this case was different, more significant, perhaps even a catalyst for change. Rachel began her day by meticulously reviewing the initial reports filed by Officer Daniel Brooks. The narrative was straightforward: a routine traffic stop that escalated due to alleged obstruction and resisting an officer. However, as Rachel delved deeper, subtle inconsistencies began to surface. The timeline didn't quite add up, and several witness statements hinted at a different story, one that painted Maya not as a resistant suspect but as a calm, cooperative resident caught in an unfortunate misunderstanding. She scheduled interviews with the witnesses present during the arrest. The first was Jasmine Carter, a neighbor who had been on her porch when the incident occurred. Jasmine described seeing Maya returning from the community center, her demeanor peaceful and unaware of the impending confrontation. "I saw Officer Brooks approaching her car. Maya seemed surprised but wasn't acting aggressively at all," Jasmine recalled, her voice steady but tinged with concern. Next was Tommy Reynolds, a local shop owner who had stepped outside to greet Maya moments before the stop. "Maya always has a friendly word for everyone. I didn't see her do anything out of the ordinary. When I saw the police car pull up, I knew something wasn't right," Tommy explained, his brow furrowed in worry. Rachel's notes began to form a clearer picture. The witnesses corroborated Maya's account of the evening, contradicting the official report. Determined to uncover the truth, Rachel requested access to the body camera footage from Officer Brooks. The footage was grainy, but as Rachel watched, the narrative began to shift. Maya was seen calmly talking to Officer Brooks, her hands visible and empty. There was no sign of immediate aggression from her side. However, the camera captured a moment when Brooks' demeanor changed abruptly, his actions becoming more forceful without clear provocation. Meanwhile, Eli Turner was deep into his own investigation. Sitting in his cluttered office filled with stacks of newspapers and open notebooks, Eli connected the dots between Maya's arrest and previous incidents involving Officer Brooks. He had discovered that Brooks had been cited for minor infractions before: long stops without clear reasons, inconsistent reports, and a few complaints from residents about his aggressive approach. While none of these past actions had led to significant consequences, they painted a troubling pattern of behavior. Eli reached out to his sources, conducting interviews with other community members who had encountered Officer Brooks. Each story echoed a similar theme: unnecessary confrontations, a lack of empathy, and an overzealous application of force. One interview stood out: Linda Green, a single mother who had been pulled over by Brooks for a broken taillight, resulting in a heated exchange that left her feeling humiliated and scared. "He didn't have a reason to treat me that way," Linda recounted, her voice wavering with emotion. "I felt powerless and alone." Back at the police station, Maya's situation was deteriorating. The conditions were stark, the air heavy with the scent of disinfectant and the hum of fluorescent lights. Her cell was small and cold, the thin mattress barely covering the hard floor. Maya sat on the edge, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and determination. She had faced adversity before, but this felt different, more personal, more systemic. The lack of clear charges and the vague explanations only deepened her frustration. Her attorney, a public defender named Rachel Kim, struggled to find grounds for Maya's release. The legal system, mired in bureaucracy and favoritism, seemed stacked against her. Maya's heart ached at the thought of Ella sleeping alone, the distance between them widening with each passing hour. She drew strength from memories of her parents, who had taught her resilience in the face of injustice, and from the unwavering support of Lena Harris, her best friend and staunch ally. Lena, on the other hand, was working tirelessly to build a coalition of activists and legal advocates. She reached out to attorney Marcus Lee, a renowned civil rights lawyer known for his tenacity and dedication to social justice. Marcus agreed to take on Maya's case, seeing it as an opportunity to challenge the systemic issues plaguing the Atlanta Police Department. Together, Lena and Marcus began strategizing, mapping out a plan to expose the truth and fight for Maya's freedom. As the day progressed, Officer Brooks found himself increasingly isolated. The internal affairs investigation loomed over him, casting a shadow of doubt and uncertainty. He had always prided himself on his service, but the mounting evidence suggested that his actions were being scrutinized more harshly than he had anticipated. The whispers among his colleagues grew louder, some expressing sympathy, others resentment. Brooks felt the weight of his decisions pressing down on him, the lines between right and wrong blurring as he grappled with his conscience. Seeking guidance, Brooks reached out to his mentor, Sergeant Laura Jenkins, a seasoned officer with over 25 years of experience. Laura had always been a pillar of integrity, respected by her peers for her fair-mindedness and dedication to ethical policing. They met in a quiet cafe, the tension between them palpable. "Laura, I don't know what to do," Brooks confessed, his voice strained. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but now, I'm not so sure." Laura listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "Daniel, policing is never black and white. It's about judgment, compassion, and sometimes making difficult choices. But you need to reflect on why you acted the way you did tonight. Was it fear? Bias? Understanding that is crucial if you want to move forward." Brooks nodded slowly, absorbing her words. "I just wanted to do my job, to keep the community safe. But maybe I went too far." "Accountability is important," Laura replied gently. "Not just to the department, but to yourself and the community you serve. Take this time to reassess and find a way to make things right." Meanwhile, Detective Martinez's investigation was gaining momentum. The conflicting accounts and body camera footage pointed to a troubling truth. Maya had been unjustly targeted. Rachel knew that exposing the truth would require meticulous documentation and unwavering resolve. She coordinated with Eli Turner, sharing findings and strategizing on how to present the evidence in a way that couldn't be ignored. Eli's articles began to draw national attention, highlighting not only Maya's case, but also the broader issues within the Atlanta Police Department. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like #JusticeForMaya and #EndRacialProfiling, amplifying the community's voice and drawing support from across the country. Donations poured in to support Maya's legal fees, and public demonstrations swelled in size and intensity, transforming from local protests to a symbol of a nationwide struggle against systemic racism. Inside the police department, the pressure was mounting. Officer Brooks was placed under heightened scrutiny, his every move watched and analyzed. The once unshakable facade he had maintained was beginning to crack, revealing the vulnerability beneath. His conversations with Sergeant Jenkins provided a lifeline, a beacon of guidance in the storm of his professional and personal turmoil. As the days turned into weeks, Maya's case became a focal point for discussions on police reform and racial justice. The community's solidarity was unwavering, their collective voice growing louder with each passing day. Lena and Marcus worked tirelessly, organizing town hall meetings, engaging with the media, and building a case that went beyond Maya's individual plight to address the systemic issues at its core. Maya, confined within her cell, found solace in her thoughts and memories. Flashbacks of her parents' resilience, her childhood in the neighborhood, and the countless moments of community solidarity fueled her determination. She envisioned a future where her daughter, Ella, could grow up without the fear and injustice that had plagued her own life. Every hardship, every setback, only strengthened her resolve to fight for a better tomorrow. One evening, as Maya sat quietly in her cell, attorney Marcus Lee visited her. "Maya, we're making progress," he assured her, his presence a source of comfort. "Detective Martinez has uncovered significant evidence that supports your case. We're preparing to challenge the charges and push for your release." Maya looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "Thank you, Marcus. I can't do this without you." Marcus nodded, his determination matching hers. "We're in this together, and we're not stopping until justice is served." As the chapter drew to a close, the threads of Maya's and Daniel's lives continued to intertwine with those of Lena, Rachel, and Eli. The pursuit of truth was gaining momentum, the foundation of their collective fight for justice strengthening with each revelation. The community's unwavering support, the dedication of the investigators, and the relentless efforts of the advocates set the stage for a pivotal confrontation that would test the very essence of their quest for equality and accountability. In the quiet moments before the storm, Maya found a moment of peace, a brief respite in the midst of chaos. Her heart swelled with gratitude for those standing by her side, their combined strength a beacon of hope in the darkness. The journey was far from over, but with each step, they edged closer to unveiling the truths that had long been buried and paving the way for a future where justice was not just an ideal, but a reality. The morning sun cast a hopeful glow over Atlanta, but within the walls of the community center, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation and tension. Lena Harris stood at the front, her presence commanding yet compassionate, as she addressed the growing crowd of activists, supporters, and concerned citizens gathered to advocate for Maya Thompson's release. The air buzzed with the sounds of determined voices and the rustle of protest signs bearing slogans like "End Racial Profiling" and "Justice for Maya." Lena took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the sea of faces that looked to her for guidance. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady and filled with resolve. "We are here not just for Maya, but for every individual who has been wronged by a system that was supposed to protect us. Today, we take a stand for justice, for accountability, and for the future of our community." Behind her, attorney Marcus Lee was busy coordinating with volunteers, ensuring that their legal strategies were in place. Marcus, a seasoned civil rights lawyer, had seen the toll that fighting systemic injustice could take, both professionally and personally. His dedication to Maya's case was unwavering, driven by a deep-seated belief that the truth must prevail, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Detective Rachel Martinez delved deeper into her investigation. She meticulously reviewed every piece of evidence, cross-referencing witness statements with the body camera footage. Her dedication was fueled by a genuine desire to uncover the truth and to ensure that justice was served. Rachel knew that this case had the potential to expose broader issues within the Atlanta Police Department, and she was determined to approach it with the utmost integrity. In the courthouse, the legal battle was about to begin. Maya sat in the defendant's chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the imposing figure of the judge. Across the room, Officer Daniel Brooks stood, his uniform immaculate but his posture tense. The courtroom was packed, the media presence a testament to the case's significance and the public's vested interest in its outcome. Marcus rose to address the court, his voice clear and impassioned. "Your Honor, this case is not merely about one individual's unfortunate encounter with law enforcement. It is a reflection of a pervasive issue, racial profiling and systemic bias within our police force. We are here to seek not only Maya's freedom but also to demand accountability and reform to prevent such injustices from occurring in the future." The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Karen Simmons, countered fiercely. "While we acknowledge the concerns raised, the evidence clearly shows that Officer Brooks acted within his duties. Maya's behavior warranted the actions taken, and we stand by the department's procedures." As the trial progressed, testimonies from witnesses like Jasmine Carter and Tommy Reynolds provided a stark contrast to Officer Brooks' account. Their consistent narratives of Maya's calm demeanor and lack of aggression began to undermine the prosecution's case. Rachel Martinez, observing from the sidelines, felt a surge of optimism. Her meticulous work was starting to reveal the cracks in the official narrative. Outside the courthouse, the community's support was unwavering. Lena and her team organized press conferences, coordinated social media campaigns, and facilitated meetings between community members and legal experts. The movement gained momentum, drawing attention from national news outlets and civil rights organizations. Donations poured in, enabling Marcus to build a robust defense and ensuring that Maya had the best possible representation. Amidst the legal turmoil, personal struggles intensified. Lena found herself stretched thin, balancing her responsibilities as an activist with caring for Ella, Maya's daughter. The emotional weight of the fight bore down on her, but her resolve never wavered. She drew strength from the community's solidarity and the shared vision of a just and equitable society. Officer Brooks, grappling with his conscience, continued his conversations with Sergeant Laura Jenkins. Their discussions grew more profound, touching on the moral implications of his actions and the broader issues within the department. Laura encouraged him to come forward with the truth, emphasizing that true honor lay in accountability and the courage to make amends. Daniel felt the walls closing in, the internal conflict tearing him apart as he weighed his duty against his emerging sense of right and wrong. As the trial neared its climax, a pivotal moment arose. Eli Turner, the investigative journalist, published a comprehensive exposé detailing Officer Brooks' history of questionable conduct and the patterns of behavior that Maya's case now illuminated. The article was a bombshell, igniting public outrage and placing immense pressure on the prosecution to uphold justice. Social media erupted with debates, and calls for police reform reached a fever pitch, further galvanizing the movement that Lena had so tirelessly built. In the courtroom, the final testimonies were heard. Rachel Martinez presented the body camera footage, highlighting the moments where Officer Brooks' actions deviated from protocol. Her expert analysis dismantled the prosecution's arguments, showcasing the lack of justification for Maya's arrest and the excessive force used. The evidence was irrefutable, painting a clear picture of injustice that could no longer be ignored. Marcus delivered his closing arguments with fervor. We have seen today that Maya Thompson did nothing to warrant the treatment she received. This case is emblematic of a larger issue that demands immediate and sustained action. Let this be a turning point, not just for Maya, but for our entire community. The jury deliberated for what felt like an eternity, the weight of their decision hanging heavily in the air. When the verdict was finally read, the courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions. Maya was found not guilty of all charges, a victory that resonated deeply with the community and the movement for justice. Officer Brooks faced disciplinary actions, his career tarnished by the exposure of his misconduct. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was one of triumph and relief. Supporters embraced, tears of joy mingling with shouts of victory. Lena, Marcus, Rachel, and Eli stood together, their collective efforts culminating in a hard-fought success. Maya stepped out into the sunlight, her spirit unbroken, greeted by the warm embrace of Lena and the cheers of those who had stood by her side. But the battle was far from over. The trial had ignited a broader conversation about police reform, racial bias, and the need for systemic change. Lena and Marcus were already planning the next steps, determined to ensure that Maya's victory would lead to tangible improvements within the Atlanta Police Department and beyond. Rachel continued her work with renewed purpose, committed to investigating and exposing injustices wherever they lay. Eli's reporting gained national recognition, amplifying the movement and inspiring similar efforts across the country. Officer Brooks, now a pariah within the department, faced the consequences of his actions. The exposure of his misconduct served as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of accountability and the impact of individual behavior on broader systemic issues. His relationship with Sergeant Jenkins remained strained, her unwavering support a reminder that integrity often comes at a personal cost. As the community celebrated Maya's release, the bonds forged through adversity grew stronger. The mural that had begun as a symbol of unity now reflected the triumph of justice and the resilience of a community united against oppression. Maya resumed her role as a community organizer with renewed vigor, her experiences deepening her commitment to advocating for those who had been silenced. Ella, Maya's daughter, looked up at her mother with wide eyes, a mixture of awe and admiration shining in her gaze. "Mama, you did it," she whispered, her voice filled with pride and love. Maya smiled, enveloping her daughter in a warm embrace. "We did it, sweetheart. Together." The chapter concluded with a sense of hope and accomplishment, the characters having navigated through intense personal and collective struggles to achieve a meaningful victory. Yet, beneath the surface, the understanding that the fight for justice was ongoing lingered, setting the stage for the final chapters that would address the lasting impact of their efforts in the continued pursuit of a just and equitable society. The courthouse steps were a hive of activity as dawn broke over Atlanta, the city still waking but already buzzing with the energy of Maya Thompson's landmark trial. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation, the walls echoing with murmurs from spectators eager to witness the culmination of weeks of tension and advocacy. Maya stood poised and resolute, her presence a testament to the strength she had drawn from her community and her unwavering belief in justice. Attorney Marcus Lee paced the courtroom, his mind sharp and focused. He had meticulously prepared for this day, knowing that every argument, every piece of evidence presented, could tip the scales in Maya's favor. Beside him, Lena Harris coordinated with volunteers, ensuring that their support network remained strong and visible. The weight of their collective efforts was palpable, each person playing a crucial role in the fight for Maya's freedom and the broader cause of police accountability. Detective Rachel Martinez reviewed her notes one last time before taking her seat. Her investigation had uncovered critical inconsistencies in Officer Daniel Brooks' account, and she was determined to present the truth unequivocally. Rachel knew that her testimony could make or break the case, and she was prepared to stand firm against any attempts to obfuscate the facts. Outside the courtroom, Eli Turner's latest article had gone viral, shedding light on the systemic issues within the Atlanta Police Department. His in-depth reporting had not only highlighted Maya's case, but also connected it to a troubling pattern of behavior exhibited by Officer Brooks and others. The public outcry had reached a fever pitch, with national media outlets picking up the story and amplifying the call for meaningful reform. As the trial commenced, Assistant District Attorney Karen Simmons stood to address the court. Her demeanor was professional, yet there was an underlying tension in her voice as she outlined the prosecution's case. "We acknowledge the community's concerns and the broader issues at play," she began. "But the evidence clearly indicates that Officer Brooks acted within the scope of his duties." Maya Thompson's actions warranted the response she received. Marcus countered swiftly, his voice steady and impassioned. "Your Honor, this case is not an isolated incident. It represents a systemic problem where racial bias and lack of accountability have allowed unjust actions to go unchallenged. We have compelling evidence that Officer Brooks not only acted inappropriately, but also exemplified a troubling pattern within the department." The courtroom was silent as Rachel Martinez took the stand, her testimony meticulously detailing the discrepancies in Officer Brooks' reports and the corroborating witness statements that supported Maya's account. She presented the body camera footage, highlighting the moments where Brooks' actions deviated from standard protocol. Her evidence was irrefutable, painting a clear picture of excessive force and unwarranted aggression. Eli Turner's articles had mobilized public opinion, and the courtroom was a microcosm of the larger movement for justice. Supporters held signs and chanted slogans outside, their voices a unified chorus demanding accountability and change. Inside, the jury listened intently, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the evidence presented. As the trial progressed, Officer Brooks' facade began to crumble. Under intense scrutiny, his earlier confidence waned, replaced by a visible strain as the evidence against him mounted. His testimony was shaky, unable to reconcile his actions with the mounting evidence and Rachel's unwavering account. The inconsistencies in his narrative became glaringly apparent, undermining the prosecution's stance. In a pivotal moment, Lena stepped forward to address the court, her voice unwavering. "This trial is about more than just one person. It's about the countless lives affected by systemic racism and the urgent need for reform." Maya Thompson's courage to stand up against injustice is a beacon of hope for our community and for everyone fighting for equality. The jury deliberated for hours, the weight of their decision hanging heavily in the air. When they finally returned, the courtroom held its breath. The four-person stood, and with a collective sigh announced, "We find the defendant, Maya Thompson, not guilty on all charges." A wave of relief and jubilation swept through the courtroom and spilled out onto the courthouse steps. Supporters embraced, tears of joy mingling with triumphant cheers. Maya stepped forward, her eyes meeting those of Lena, Marcus, Rachel, and Eli, each of them sharing a moment of profound accomplishment. The verdict was not just a personal victory for Maya, but a significant milestone in the fight against systemic injustice. Officer Brooks faced immediate disciplinary action, his career irrevocably damaged by the exposure of his misconduct. The Atlanta Police Department announced sweeping changes, including mandatory bias training, the implementation of stricter accountability measures, and the establishment of an independent oversight committee to prevent future abuses of power. These reforms were hailed as a direct result of Maya's trial, a testament to the power of collective action and unwavering determination. Back at the community center, Lena organized a celebration to honor Maya and the movement they had built together. The mural that had once symbolized unity now depicted victory and resilience, its vibrant colors a reflection of the community's spirit. Maya addressed the crowd, her voice filled with emotion. "Today is a victory for all of us. It shows that when we stand together, when we demand justice and accountability, we can create real, lasting change. But our work is not done. We must continue to fight for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect." Rachel Martinez received commendations for her thorough and honest investigation. Her reputation as a dedicated officer further solidified. Her role in uncovering the truth had not only helped Maya but had also set a precedent for future cases, ensuring that justice would be served with integrity. Eli Turner's reporting continued to garner national attention, inspiring journalists across the country to shine a light on similar issues within their own communities. His work underscored the importance of a free press and holding power to account, and he remained committed to uncovering the stories that others tried to bury. As the chapter drew to a close, the community stood united, their bonds strengthened by the trials they had endured and the victories they had achieved. Maya returned home to Ella, their embrace a symbol of hope and the promise of a brighter future. The journey had been arduous, but the echoes of their struggle had ignited a movement that would continue to challenge injustice and advocate for a more equitable society. The final notes of the day resonated with a profound sense of accomplishment and the understanding that while significant progress had been made, the fight for justice was an ongoing battle. The seeds planted through Maya's courage and the community's resilience were beginning to bear fruit, promising a future where fairness and equality were not just ideals but realities for all. The early morning sun cast a golden hue over Atlanta, signaling not just the start of a new day but the dawn of a transformed community. The streets that had once been rife with tension now buzzed with a renewed sense of hope and determination. Maya Thompson stood on the steps of her townhouse, the crisp winter air invigorating her spirit. After the tumultuous trial, her life had changed in ways she had never imagined, but today felt different, like the beginning of a new chapter rather than the end of a long struggle. Inside her home, Ella woke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. She stretched, her small frame filled with the innocent energy that Maya had always cherished. Maya watched her daughter with a heart full of gratitude, the trials of the past weeks now a source of strength rather than despair. She knew that her fight had not only secured her freedom but had also ignited a movement that would continue to challenge injustice and advocate for equality. Lena Harris arrived at Maya's doorstep, her face beaming with pride and relief. "Maya, you're free," she said, enveloping her in a warm embrace. "We did it." Maya nodded, her eyes reflecting the myriad emotions she felt. "We did it together, Lena. I couldn't have done this without you and everyone else." The community's efforts had culminated in tangible changes within the Atlanta Police Department. The mandatory bias training was underway, with officers participating in rigorous programs designed to address and eliminate implicit biases. The Independent Oversight Committee, established in the wake of Maya's trial, had begun its work, reviewing past cases and implementing stricter accountability measures. These reforms were not just administrative changes. They were a testament to the power of collective action and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Detective Rachel Martinez continued her work with renewed vigor, her investigation into other cases of misconduct gaining recognition and support. Her dedication inspired other officers to come forward, fostering a culture of transparency and integrity within the department. Rachel knew that true change required continuous effort, but she was committed to being at the forefront of that transformation. Eli Turner's reporting reached national prominence, his articles sparking conversations across the country about police reform and racial justice. His work inspired journalists in other cities to investigate similar issues, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond Atlanta. Eli felt a profound sense of responsibility, understanding that his voice could be a catalyst for widespread change. Attorney Marcus Lee expanded his practice, dedicating more resources to fighting systemic injustices and representing those who had been wronged by the legal system. His partnership with Lena proved to be a formidable force, their combined expertise and passion driving forward initiatives that aimed to dismantle the barriers faced by marginalized communities. Officer Daniel Brooks, now facing disciplinary actions, reflected deeply on his actions. The conversations with Sergeant Laura Jenkins had planted a seed of introspection, leading him to question the very foundation of his beliefs about policing. While his career within the department was tarnished, Brooks sought redemption through community service, working alongside advocates to understand the impact of his misconduct and to support the reforms he had once resisted. Sergeant Laura Jenkins remained a steadfast mentor, guiding officers through the changing landscape of law enforcement. Her unwavering commitment to ethical policing served as a beacon for those struggling to reconcile their duties with their consciences. Laura understood that true leadership required not just enforcing the law, but also fostering an environment where justice and compassion could coexist. As the months passed, the community center became a hub of activity and progress. The mural, initially a symbol of unity, now depicted scenes of triumph and resilience, its vibrant colors reflecting the collective spirit of the community. Workshops on civic engagement, legal rights, and community safety were regularly held, empowering residents with the knowledge and tools needed to protect their rights and advocate for their needs. Maya resumed her role as a community organizer with a renewed sense of purpose. Her experiences had deepened her commitment to fostering a just and equitable society, and she worked tirelessly to ensure that the lessons learned from her trial were not forgotten. She spearheaded initiatives aimed at supporting families affected by police misconduct, providing a platform for their voices to be heard and their stories to be shared. One crisp autumn evening, the community gathered once more at the center for a celebration commemorating the milestones they had achieved together. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of delicious food from local vendors. Maya stood before the crowd, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Today, we celebrate not just a victory for Maya, but a victory for our entire community, she began, her voice strong and clear. We have shown that when we stand together, when we demand justice and accountability, we can create real, lasting change. But our journey doesn't end here. We must continue to fight for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, where justice is not a privilege but a right for all. The crowd erupted in applause, the energy palpable as they embraced the message of unity and perseverance. Lena stepped forward, her eyes meeting Maya's with a shared understanding. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "We've made progress, but there's still so much more to do. Together, we can keep turning the tide." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the community center, the bonds forged through adversity and triumph grew stronger. The movement they had built was resilient, adaptable, and unwavering in its pursuit of justice. Maya looked around at the faces of her friends, allies, and supporters, each one a testament to the power of collective action and the enduring human spirit. Ella, now a bit older and more aware of her mother's journey, approached Maya with a drawing in her hand. It depicted a group of people standing together, holding hands beneath a large tree with roots intertwined, symbolizing strength and unity. "Mama, you did it," Ella said, her eyes shining with pride. "You made things better." Maya knelt down, hugging her daughter tightly. "Yes, sweetheart. We all did it together." The chapter concluded with a panoramic view of the community, bustling with life and hope. The echoes of Maya's struggle had transformed into a harmonious chorus of voices advocating for justice, equality, and compassion. The journey they had embarked upon was far from over, but the foundation they had built was strong, ensuring that the fight for a just and equitable society would continue to resonate for generations to come. As night enveloped the city, the stars twinkled above, each one a symbol of the countless stories of resilience and courage that illuminated the path toward a brighter future. The legacy of Maya Thompson and her community was now etched into the very fabric of Atlanta, a beacon of hope and a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the pursuit of justice could prevail.